That was broken. What's up, everyone, and welcome to another episode of VCCLive. I am Kevin Skipper, my co-host Jay DeLuco, Nick Green, and Matt Coley. Today we are discussing whatever you guys want to talk about.
I have no idea.
We'll wait and see who's in the chat today, and if you guys have any questions, we'll do a Q&A. We're going to, of course, do some updates on stuff we talked about over the last few weeks, if there's been any movement or changes on anything like that. But I guess for the most part, we'll do a Q&A with anyone in the chat and tell you about a few things. I've seen some comments lately, and some people have messaged me and said, "Hey, Kev, chill. You talk too much. You're talking over. You're talking over your host. You're talking over your guests."
We can talk about that Right to Vape tour.
Like Matt just did to me right there.
What you got to do in shows like this?
Yeah.
Kevin will never stop.
Yeah, so I'm gonna stop. I'm gonna stop talking as much and stop talking over people as much. I can't. My brain is like moving so fast that my mouth wants it to come out. So I need to stop doing that as much, and I'll work on it. I promise you. So yeah, tell us what's going on. We'll start with Jay, and then Nick, and then Matt. What's happening?
I don't know. I got all caught up on orders this week, so I'm working on some marketing materials. The horror. That's about it. It's been relatively quiet on Facebook for the last few days, as far as vaping stuff goes. Still plenty of videos of cats and, everybody's taking pictures of their sons and daughters going back to school. But, it's kind of hard to, thread shit on stuff like that.
When did you start the goatee? This morning?
This morning, no. I had a lazy shave a few days ago, so this was the result.
Nice. How's it going, Nick?
Oh, it's good, man. Good. Really busy. Always busy. On September 11th, I'm going to go up to Vape Capital for the, the Not Blowing Smoke anti-Proposition 56 road show. That's one of the stops is Vape Capital up north in Orange County. So I'm going to go up there. That should be good. Just working like crazy, pushing hard into Europe, with all the products. We have to get, you have to register with the European, central TPD thing. And there's very little information about that. Nobody knows what the process is going to be or how much it's going to cost. So,
wow.
Any vendor selling in Europe, you do have to register with the TPD, and it could potentially be expensive and or time-consuming, but nobody knows yet. So there you go. That's the thing.
Wow. Yeah. Everywhere. It's happening everywhere, man.
Yeah.
Matt, how's things with you? You were telling us that it sucked.
Yeah, we're having ongoing problems with our house. Water issue. Our water just stopped working last night. Fuck my life. One thing to mention, I should have said this earlier, but a bunch of people have been posting about this Right to Vape tour today. It's basically have you guys heard about this yet?
Mm-hmm. Vaguely.
Heard of, yes.
I heard about it a couple of weeks ago, but I think they just made it public today. It's basically like a few of the different advocacy organizations partnered up, and they're doing like a bus tour around the country. And it's supposed to be kind of a grassroots thing. I know CASA's involved, but they're raising money for it right now. If you want to check it out, righttovape.org.
Is it 2 like TWO or the number 2?
It's TO.
Oh, 2. Right.
Grammatically correct.
Right.
That's weird. That's weird. Why are vapors suddenly spelling things correctly?
We'll flip over to the right screen real quick, and I'll show everyone what it looks like so they know they're in the right spot. Right to Vape. It's called the Right to Vape Tour. The Right to Vape Tour is a nationwide grassroots campaign and bus tour led by a coalition of small businesses, consumers, trade associations, and public policy organizations. The Right to Vape Coalition is organizing a series of press conferences, rallies, and town halls aimed at urging Congress to bring an end to the Food and Drug Administration's regulatory war on vaping. The campaign launches in October. So then it's got some more information. Their goal is $225,000 raised, of which they've gotten $100,136. Where'd that come from? Any ideas?
That's really good.
That is really good. Yeah,
I
American.
think some of the money that AVA has been taking.
Oh, okay.
Right to the right to vape campaign. I think he's putting some of that into this as well.
All right. Well, it looks like the coalition members are the Americans for Tax Reform. That's mainly Paul Blair working with the vaping industry on that. American Vaping Association, CASA, and SAFADA. So there you go.
Oh, sweet.
We've already got some questions coming in, guys.
Oh, cool.
Our viewers are letting us off the hook here.
Nice.
So Nutter Joshua 68 asks, can I get in trouble for installing a coil for a blind guy? So it's the whole, going back to that installing pre-manufactured coils thing that we've been discussing for weeks. Thoughts? We are not lawyers, first of all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, not a lawyer.
Yeah. Anything?
That's one of those that everybody's still debating on.
Yes,
I
I
mean,
know some shops are still installing pre-manufactured coils, while some are not doing full-on builds for customers anymore. That's kind of the side that I personally think things should fall. But again, none of us are lawyers, so.
The thing is, I think if you get caught, you don't get in trouble, but you will then forward be a tobacco manufacturer, at which point you have to register in December as a tobacco manufacturer, and then anything you do after that, pre-made coils or building your own coils, will have to go through PMTA.
but
That's
the
what I
argument
think
is,
happening.
I agree. I honestly, if I owned a shop, I would probably do it if it was a special circumstance like that. But I mean, it's kind of
Right.
one of those things where everybody should take that risk upon themselves. I haven't heard of anyone getting written warnings about it. But I mean, the argument is that because you are manufacturing that after August 8th, any coil that you make even right now could be against the rules. But it's one of those that I don't think we're ever really going to know 100% if they're going to crack down on it until
Yeah.
we get a.
Does he mean like a coil like for an Aspire Nautilus, or does he mean a coil? Can you maybe clarify that?
Yeah, Nutter Josh, if you could clarify.
And I'll just tell you-
I took it to mean it was a pre-manufactured coil, so.
Okay.
Yeah,
Not
I
a-
So-
took it to mean, it was like a coil head for like a sub-ohm.
When we had Azim on a few weeks ago, we kind of discussed this, and my thought on it is, again, this is not legal advice or anything like that, but this is just my thought. If they purchase something from you, it is no longer a product available for sale. Obviously, they have a receipt for the transaction that just occurred, and it is no longer on the market as a tobacco product. It's a personally owned thing by the customer. So I think
But,
it depends on when the
all
sales
of
transaction
this is-
takes place. But it's all
this is very
conjecture.
nitpicky, and
Yeah.
I feel like a broken record, but I'm gonna keep saying it. We're not gonna know until enforcement begins.
Right. And I think if it's a blind person who physically can't do it, again, like Matt said, you have a much better case in a special circumstance like that than you would just randomly offering it for every customer that comes in the door.
I think there's a big difference between pre-made coils and building
Yeah.
having
There
a
is.
coil builder as well, because then you're just installing or servicing a product as opposed to manufacturing a coil.
Yeah, but if the
Exactly.
transaction's already occurred, then it's no longer in your inventory. It's no longer not something you're trying to sell anymore. It's already been sold. They own it. So anyway.
So Nick Bissett from Daily Vape TV asks, since YouTube recently changed their community guidelines so that monetized channels cannot showcase controlled substances, would this include vaping, seeing as we are now technically a tobacco product?
When they're talking about controlled substances, I think they're talking about actual scheduled drugs.
Yeah, I do too.
Yeah, I do too.
Not a tobacco product. But I mean, they could at any time extend that. I mean, because a lot of creators have been getting fucked this week just for random things. There's, the title there's news channels out there that are getting flagged just because they had, suicide prevention or rape, in their tags, but they were just talking about the news, and so at any time they could decide to crack down on tobacco and demonetize those channels.
Yeah, YouTube
Or
painted with a
those-
really broad brush. They said, I can't remember the word they used. It was like sensitive subjects. Like you can't talk
Yeah.
about sensitive subjects and you can't have obscenities or vulgarities. That is ridiculous. I mean, there's YouTubers that rely on obscenities. And it's funny. Like, that's what they do. We were talking about this on the podcast that's going up Sunday, but, Jenna Marbles she makes a living off of YouTube, and 100% of her videos are obscenities.
Yeah.
So,
well,
I
the
mean, come
interest. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
And it
No,
took
go
me
ahead.
years to get sick of her.
The interesting thing is that what YouTube said is they actually haven't changed anything. They said before they were just privately demonetizing certain videos that came up from their algorithm as being adult content. But now they're just starting to notify people about it. So I thought that was kind of interesting. But a lot of people have been appealing it and winning. They're kind of pulling an FDA where they're leaving it super vague just so they can basically reserve the right to do whatever the fuck they want down the road.
Yeah, and before anyone says, what about our right to free speech and stuff, just keep in mind that YouTube, and I've seen it before about Facebook, how can Facebook block groups? And they're private, they're companies, they are not government organizations.
Right.
They can restrict speech as much as they want to restrict it. So
Exactly.
basically, YouTube has a monopoly. Well, not a monopoly. I mean, there are other entities out there that have video formats. I think Dailymotion's one of them, and there are other things like that. But there's not many, and certainly none comparable to YouTube. So they control the court, man. They can tell you exactly what you can and can't say.
Well, and it's also not censorship because it's not like they're erasing the videos. They're just saying they're not they're basically kind of pandering to their advertisers. You got advertisers like the big dogs like McDonald's, and I'm sure they say, we want something in place that'll, make sure that we're not going to be on, sensitive content. So it's just kind of throwing them a bone.
Yeah,
I think.
that's how broadcasting has always worked,
Yeah.
conventional or internet. So, New Life of Josh asks, Jay, will you do a live Viking skit for us?
Right now, like impromptu.
Yeah, that's what I was just going to say. Not today. No, so Stanley the Viking has been on a sabbatical for a little while, just because things have been a little too serious in the community. He'll be back at some point.
Well, Vikings don't have goatees. They
I've
have.
been getting a lot of
beards.
requests lately to do a new bad lip reading video too.
Yeah, that shit was hilarious.
Yeah, that would be amazing.
I just now realized you were the bad lip reading guy.
Oh yeah, nice
Wow.
to meet you.
Do one real quick. Ready? I'll make some things and you make them. I'm not hearing any. What am I saying, Jay? Come on. So any other questions? Anything happening? And I guess I probably should open chat.
You can open chat too, Kevin.
Yeah, I can. Well, while we're looking real quick, I'll tell you. So I had an invitation last week from Amy Lane. She is one of the hosts of a show on Smoke Free Radio called Not a Vaping Sheep.
Everybody's saying you're too loud, Kevin.
Too loud? I got it turned almost all the way down. I don't know what else. Maybe I could move the mic back. Is that better?
Yeah, now you have to speak louder though.
Oh, Jesus. Well, I'll find a happy medium. How about that?
No, that's perfect.
Okay.
Yeah, that's actually really good.
All right. So if we go over to the right monitor here, you can find their group on Facebook. It's called Not a Vaping Sheep Flock. Hashtag Not a Vaping Sheep. And here is Amy Lane. She is in Indiana. And let me see if I can make that bigger. So yeah, this is the show at Smoke Free Radio. It'll be on tonight, I believe, 9 o'clock Eastern time, and I'll be on with Amy, and we'll be talking about Indiana. And I think they had. Let me just see here. I'm going to go back over to us. And then I'm going to look at our messages really quickly here. They had some implementation of the law this week, and there was some concern about whether or not it was going to be the state was going to be taking a hard line on the legislation that was going into effect, or if they were going to kind of scale back and maybe not take such a hard line, since the FBI is investigating all their asses for being corrupt mothers. So,
See, careful, YouTube.
yeah.
Eat those mothers.
So yeah, I guess we'll talk about that tonight in detail. So if you're interested in checking that out, it's at smokefreeradio.com tonight at 9:00 Eastern.
Does Smoke Free Radio do like a podcast? Like, can I listen to it afterward?
Yeah, I think they're posted up on Spreaker, SoundCloud. There's a bunch of different ones that are.
I just use my podcast aggregator. I use Beyond Pod, and I just searched for Smoke Free Radio and added it to my.
Or you can go to smokefreeradio.com, and I think they actually put the replays there as well, including ours from VCCLive.
Okay.
Yes.
They have them under the replays section. So that's pretty cool. If you're interested, check that out tonight. I'll put the links up in the description for anyone who might check the replay of VCC Live today at some point before tonight.
Charles Heitz asks, Sean from Plumes asked a great question on Facebook. What, if anything, would you like to see advocacy groups change in how they communicate with their members? I, for one,
Jay, tell us what you think.
I would just like, to, and I'm just as guilty of this as any, most of the advocacy groups. I would just like to see more communication. I think when they communicate, they do it very well, by and large. But I would just like to see more communication and more sharing of information.
Well, I think one of the largest in primary consumer groups is CASA, and I think they do a pretty good job of communicating.
They do an excellent job.
So, I mean, if he's talking about the industry organizations such as SFATA and VTA and some of the state organizations, that's up to them and their members.
Right.
Yeah.
If they're not communicating well enough with their members, then their members need to step up and say something, or just not join the association.
Yeah, and I mean, if they have nothing to report, then they can't report anything. I mean, should they be sending out bi-weekly newsletters? It's like, still nothing new, still nothing new.
Well, I think
still nothing new.
I think maybe a monthly newsletter is saying.
It reminds me of this show.
Yeah, I think CASA does a good job. I mean, it's hard to say because I'm not a member of SFATA or VTA, any of those. But
is he talking about like calls to action type stuff, or is he talking more about like financials? Because I know the FSFA, for instance, is working on getting their financial information ready to distribute to the public. It's obviously something you don't want to put out there without having an accountant review first. So they're in the process of doing that. And there was some questions about that. I heard that some people had requested information from the FSFA and they were flat out refused, which doesn't seem right to me. But unless you say, unless it's someone from, that's not a member, then they might have been told, well, that's information that we're going to retain for our members only. But I think that the FSFA has made a decision to at least put out charts of where the money has been going over the last 2 years and make them public on the flsmokefree.org. So as soon as that's finished, it will be up. It's not like they're trying to hide anything. They're just trying to get it compiled and make sure that it's accurate before it goes out for public dissemination. So if that's what did he clarify what he was? Because I think every one of them does a pretty good job of calls to action.
Well, yeah, Charles did clarify. He joined CASA via email, and he has yet to get an email from CASA. I think so. He's speaking specifically to the different venues of communication that CASA uses.
Well, they usually only send emails out when you have a call to action in your state.
Typically, right. Whereas on Facebook, they post quite a bit.
I signed up for CASA so long ago, like 3 years.
Everybody's complaining about your mic volume again.
Me?
Yeah.
Come on, Kevin, get yourself together here.
I'm turning gain down again. Is that okay?
That's better.
It's good.
It's like at 1/4. Maybe I just talk loud. I don't know.
Those Yeti mics are super sensitive.
No, he's got the same mic I have. He has the MXL.
Oh.
I have the exact same setup Jay has. Even the mixer's the same. I don't, and I have the settings the same, or I had them the same, but
not anymore. But I've noticed that it's a terrible mixer. I probably should have warned you.
Thanks. Appreciate that.
I'm constantly having to adjust it. I'm sure I'll have to adjust it to high hell tonight for tonight's show with Nick Bissett.
Well, I've got it back, like, I don't know, a long ways from my mouth, and I turned the gain way down, so hopefully it's better and not killing people. Sorry. Apologies. What else can I say?
And they're saying that Matt's a little quiet.
All the world is gay.
On the
Little Nirvana for you.
or on the topic that we were talking about, if I had a wish, I would say that they would communicate. Especially like the business or the trade organizations communicate maybe better with each other and stop fighting. That would be awesome.
Yeah, and again, I think CASA has always, kind of taken the high road in that respect. But yeah, certainly some of the other groups have a hard time, and that's a tough thing to navigate. When you feel like you have to defend yourself, that's not always an easy thing to do, and not come across as being petty.
Well, I mean, you have, and I don't know how deep we want to go into this, but when you have an organization that split off from another organization for fundamental differences of opinion, like the VTA did from SFATA, it's not likely that they're going to go back over and say, we split off from you, but let's work together. I mean, the whole point that they left was because they didn't agree with the ideology. I mean,
Right.
SFATA basically last year said, I think their president at the time was Phil Damon, and he was not supportive of HR 2058. He's an attorney, and his preference was to litigate. And a couple of the board members said, yeah, our preference is to support HR 2058, not to litigate. So peace, we're starting VTA. And that's how it happened. And I mean, when you have stuff like that go on, it's just not human nature to go back over to someone who you just split from because of fundamental differences and say, let's work together.
Okay, well, maybe here's something even better. Here's my wish, is that even if they're not going to get along, that they stop letting their dirty laundry slip out into the public and making themselves look unprofessional.
Agreed 100%.
Because that's probably the biggest problem. Like, fight behind the scenes, but a lot of these advocacy advocates that are amazing just shouldn't be on Facebook because they don't have the people skills to be able to.
Yes.
I mean, that's very, very blunt, but I mean, they're people that and I'm not just thinking of one, I'm thinking of at least 3 or 4 right now that are amazing at what they do, but their Facebook skills suck ass. That's my rant for the day.
That was a pretty tame rant. We got to get you fired up, Matt.
Yeah, that's a B- at best.
Well, keep it a little soft today.
Oh, Alex just replied to Charles in chat. So
Adam Webb asks, with all the BS that goes on in this industry, how do you guys keep pushing every day? Obviously, I know the love of vaping, but outside of that, or is that what keeps you going specifically?
for me personally, it's for the smokers we haven't converted yet. The 40 million people in the United States of America who will die from combustible tobacco unless we get them switched over to vaping. Oops, can't say that now. Well, fuck you, I said it, so find me.
Wow.
For me, it's Kevin Skipper's fault. If he didn't invite me to start doing this show, I'd probably not have internet anymore.
Jay for the win.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's rough, but you do it because you love it, and every once in a while you'll get a really great, heartwarming email about someone who found your videos or found your channel or found something through you to help them to get them to the next level, to get the device they really want, to get the juice they really want, to be completely satisfied. And that's, even if that only happens once a month and then the rest of the month everybody on YouTube is calling you names, then that's enough to keep me motivated to continue on. It feels good to be part of something that's bigger than yourself, and I just want vaping to be safe and legal and accessible to every vapor and smoker. That's how it should be. That's where I want to get, And that's what motivates me personally. Also money. No, I'm just kidding. That's not that.
That too. I'll amend my answer to say yes, that too.
I was saying this before we went live, but honestly, sometimes I just need to take breaks for 3 or 4 days where I don't look at YouTube comments, I don't look at Facebook at all,
Yeah.
and I just kind of recharge that way.
That's 100% necessary. At least once a month I do that. Take 2 or 3 days off where I don't even look at anything vaping related online.
I try to do that on the weekends, but inevitably I do some stuff related to vaping besides just vaping. But yeah, good question. Appreciate that.
Yeah.
Maybe for some reason, I didn't know this before we started using the YouTube format on a live show, but they don't take the comments that you guys are putting in the comments section during the live broadcast and transition them over to comments, so people can't see what you're saying after the fact. If you had a really good point or something, write a comment to the video when it's up for the replay. You know, when it renders and it's on as a replay or whatever. We can't transition them over and we can't send them over, but anyway, we get a lot of good comments during the show and a lot of good questions that go unseen is my point. So, yeah. I'm not seeing any questions there now.
No, I think that was it for questions for now, but all you folks feel free to ask away.
Yeah, it's open mic night.
Yeah, and if you think it's a really important one, put it in all caps.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, don't make us go to the whole boxers or briefs question. We're getting desperate here.
That's ridiculous.
Well, while we're having this little bit, see, I'm trying not to talk as much, but it seems like I need to say something.
No, go
I don't
ahead.
know.
Go.
You're still
the anchor.
Let it flow, buddy.
And in the last week, has anything happened with Prop 56 besides the rally that you're going to in California?
I haven't heard any updates at all. I know Not Blowing Smoke has ramped up their social media campaign as far as doing the, hashtag NIX56, NIX 56, and they've posted all of the dates for the road show tour. It's just in California. It's a couple cities in California. I think it ends in Sacramento. But as far as like official updates for the actual proposition, I have not.
Remind us again when the vote is. Is it November 3rd, I think?
That sounds right.
Yeah.
I'd have to start digging through emails to find it, but I think that sounds right. It's definitely in November.
It's probably the same as the presidential election. I'm assuming it's probably on the ballot at the same ballot. So definitely if you're in California, we shared the link on last week's video, and you can find that. It gives you a ton of information on Proposition 56 and why you should vote no on it. Any idea if there's other than a social media push and the bus tour, it would seem to me that companies remaining in California would want to put together some funds to do a public outreach program, like maybe billboards or commercials or something like that. Do you think that that's something that's going to happen?
Yeah, I think that's a great idea.
Because ultimately it's the consumers who are going to vote on this. We need to reach them.
Yeah, and there's been, it's hard to ask again for money from people to have a billboard in California. Lately there's been so much, let's donate to the ABA Rip Trippers thing. Let's donate to the Right to Be Smoke Free Coalition. Let's donate to this other thing. Let's donate to this other thing. It's a lot. And so
Yeah,
I get it if people are like, donate money to another thing, So
Well, I guess if you're a California business, you have to understand that that's a cost of doing business in the state of California because they're always going to be fucking with you.
Business owners should absolutely be donating money, but I think it's going to be difficult. I should have specified to ask consumers
Yeah.
As well.
Someone said in chat, can we get a VCC in Seattle? And I absolutely agree with that.
I would
checked-
go to that, and I would pay I would go there.
I
Yes.
checked there a couple of, maybe for last year's events in 2015, I checked. There is no convention center or any place outside of maybe some private hotels, which has not been our format in the past, but that will let you vape inside.
There's a few out, like, once you get out, 30, 40 minutes away from Seattle, like, there's some, like, on a few different reservations that are really nice, like, resort, convention center type things.
Right. I did not check any of the resorts or like Indian reservation places. I checked in Seattle and I checked in Tacoma, which I lived there for like a year and a half, so I kind of know the area. And they said that they would not allow vaping inside the convention center. But what's funny about that and what struck me about this was, so I called them one day during the week. I don't remember which day it was, but anyway, I called them, and about a week later is when they got back to me and said no. But when I spoke to them for the first time, they said, "Oh yeah, I don't know. It might be a possibility. I know we're having a gardening convention in a couple of months." No shit, gardening convention. I said, "Well, what does that mean? Why did you say it like with implied quotes or whatever?" "Oh, well, it's for marijuana, because we just passed a law here and stuff." This was like just not like within a year of them passing the law for marijuana, and it's a marijuana gardening convention. So a week later, when they call me back and this is Pierce County in Tacoma, Washington, which is about 40 minutes south of Seattle. They said, "We're sorry, but there's an ordinance that says no vaping indoors." Initially, the first thing that popped in my head and came out of my mouth was, I said, "You're kidding me, right? You're having a how to grow marijuana convention there in a couple of months, but we can't vape," which is an alternative to combustible tobacco that's killing 400,000 people a year, and they didn't know what to say or how to respond to that. Other than I'm sorry, I apologize, but that's the ordinance.
Charles is asking, is there anything special planned for advocacy at VCCTN?
Yes. It's going to be similar to what we did in PA and what we did in Tampa, so it'll be stage. And I'll say this every week, and as long as someone brings it up about the VCC events, I try not to make this a VCC show, but it is VCCLive. But we need sponsors and vendors for Tennessee now. So the events, and I say it at every event, that's why when I'm on stage, I thank every one of the vendors and sponsors who are there, because without them, there is no VCC event. And right now, people are scared. People are scared of investing into a future and marketing in this industry, and maybe that's something we can talk about for a few minutes and what you guys think about that, because it's the exact opposite approach that I would think would be necessary to keep us around and make us a strong and formidable force with any state or federal governmental organization. We need to continue the pace that we were at leading up to the regulations being released. If we do not, they win by default. Because again, I say this like almost every episode. If you win and you fight for something and there's nothing left by the time that you've won, it's a hollow victory. So what are we fighting for if everyone's just going to scale back? And I actually wrote an article for Vapin' Magazine, which I typically do for every issue, advocacy related, that'll be coming out in a few weeks, and it's kind of along these same lines. To what end are we fighting for if you're not going to continue to grow your business and market? At least for the next couple of years, at a minimum. You have to give, and basically what you're saying when you're scaling back your business and not investing in marketing and conventions, which, yeah, there was a ton of conventions this past 2 years. They popped up out of nowhere. When I first started, there was like 3 or 4 events that happened nationally, and I thought that was good. Now there's like 3 or 4 a weekend. Yeah, of course, there's a lot to choose from, but when you have core ones that have been around a while, and I don't want to speak about anyone else's events, but about VCC events specifically, I can speak. We are advocacy focused, we're professional focused, and we try to do things the right way to make a positive image for the vaping community. But without the support of vendors and sponsors, the event is just not possible. It costs a lot of money and takes a lot of time to put these events on.
I think there's going to be I think it was kind of a knee-jerk reaction, and everybody's wallets tightened. And then I think like once the dust settles and a lot of these companies all of a sudden are looking around and like, wait, we're still here. We're still making money. I don't think the convention scene will ever be like it once was, but I think that maybe, next year you'll start seeing people, willing to spend a little more money again. Does that make sense? Like, it's just like everybody's like, the 8th is coming, we're all doomed. I'm not spending a dime, but
It does, but after, like, I understood why we were a little bit slow for Pittsburgh because the regulations had hit in May, and things slowed down considerably for sponsor and vendor sales at the Pittsburgh event. And my thought was, after August 8th comes and goes and people realize, hey, we're still in business, people still need products, we still have at least a couple years to get stuff changed in the industry, that Chattanooga would pick up considerably. It has not yet. So,
Well, I'm still planning on getting a table. So.
well, there you go. The event is saved. But yeah, I mean, we just need, I guess we need to, I don't really know what the answer is, guys. I think of it every single day.
It's not really just businesses either. It's consumers that are not going to shows as well. I mean, every event I've been to, it's had lower-ish attendance. Dallas on Saturday was packed, and on the second public day, Sunday, was a ghost town.
Yeah.
The other vendors were there, and
Yeah.
a few consumers, and I was just really confused. Like, nobody's here. This is open to the public. Nobody's here. Where are the consumers?
Yeah, and I'm sure, you can kind of use that as a microcosm of the whole convention community as a whole. I mean, there is going to be a burnout factor. At first there was 1 or 2 conventions a year. Now, Kevin, like you said, there's 2 or 3 a weekend. So at some point, people are going to start getting burnt out. They're going to stop paying for plane tickets across the country every other weekend. But I think there will be kind of an economic balance at some point. The number of conventions will shrink again, but they'll become a little more concentrated and a little more full.
It's frustrating for me as an event organizer who's been doing this for 2.5 years. We've done 8 shows. Each one of them has been, in my opinion, a success. Some people might be pissed because they didn't get enough free stuff, or I don't know. Pittsburgh was a little less well attended. Well, I mean, half the attendance that it was last year, but it was still about 2,200 people, which is not terrible.
It was a great event, and all the vendors that I talked to had
all the vendors I talked to had a great. But then you look at other events that are not doing things as well, or planning as well, or allowing things to go on that I don't think should be allowed to go on in the public eye, and they're selling booths, and it makes me scratch my head and wonder why. But I'm not going to change my philosophy because of it. I mean, I had someone call me yesterday that was willing to sign up for a sponsorship, but he was doing CBD oil, and it's against my personal beliefs to do that, mix it with tobacco harm reduction. It's just not something that we have done in VCC events. I don't see anything wrong with it. If you want to do a CBD convention, do a CBD convention. But my policy has always been we're either nicotine or non-nicotine containing liquids to get combustible tobacco users off of combustible tobacco. I don't need to hear the arguments pro or con against CBD. I understand that there may be some benefit for people. It's just not what our position is on it. Could I have sold them a booth yesterday and made some money? Yes. What would that have done for my image when I constantly say we're not going to allow stuff like that at the events, and then suddenly allow it just because we need to sell some booth spaces? Not going to happen. I had another vendor call me, sign up, he applied this past week out of New York, and his labels had cartoon characters on them. And I called him and I said, as badly as we need vendors for this event right now, I cannot allow you to come. I said, because that goes against everything that, it goes against every principle we have for the VCC events. You know what he said? I will happily remove the cartoon characters. I'll have you, he has a little drop and it's got a little angry face on it, but that wasn't the bad part. That part's I'm okay with. It's not terrible. But there was a cartoon bunny and there was a cartoon gorilla and stuff like that on his labels. And I said, dude, I just can't do it. He said, you know what? I'll have my art designer come up with something and we'll send it over to you and we'll have different labels, at least for the event. But hopefully he takes to mind everything that I said and changes them permanently everywhere.
Right.
Within 5 hours, I had revised art of labels that had the cartoons removed. And I said, okay, you're good to go now.
That's awesome, and that's preemptive. I mean, it's not like they showed up and just had these cartoon characters all over the place, and then we're pressured.
Well, I also make it known to him too. By the way, if you're telling me one thing and you show up with another, you're not setting up.
Mm-hmm.
So, Anyway, it's a tough balance between running a business and sticking to your principles.
Yeah.
I had an attorney one time that was, I was working with on something, and he said, principles will cost you a lot of money.
Yeah.
And I said, I can't do it. If the VCC events don't get enough people to do future events because I'm not letting in people that do CBD or have cartoon characters, then I guess that's just the way it's going to go, because I'm not giving in on that.
Or just start doing a separate event for CBD.
Again, that's not my. Yeah, I understand that you could. I probably could do that and sell it out. I'm not kidding you. It's just not my thing.
There's definitely a turn in much of the community moving towards the CBD market.
I
Or
could
not the,
see you
not
in
the community,
like
but the industry.
yeah. I could see you in like a bandana with little weed emblems all over it. Vape Nation,
Weed emblems, Matt?
whatever you call them. Weed leaves.
You put your,
Leaf-
CBD doesn't
Put your
contain
weed
THC. Is that correct?
That's kind doesn't it?
in theory, it has a negligible amount. That's my understanding. I've never
Okay.
tried it.
Me
And I
neither.
don't smoke dope, so I'm probably not the
Yeah,
best
it's
person.
supposed to be zero THC. I had a multitude of bottles of CBD liquids that I vaped the hell out of. And they were like, 3 milligram nicotine, and then, whatever the percentage of CBD, like, 62% CBD. And I vaped all these bottles, and it was just like vaping. There wasn't, I didn't eat Cheetos more or trip out and watch British home improvement shows.
Were you still vaping nicotine-containing liquid as well?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I was just curious, if you vape that exclusively, would you go through like nicotine withdrawals or?
No, the CBD liquid that I had nicotine in it. It was
Gotcha.
3 milligram nicotine plus whatever CBD was. I don't even remember the name of the brand. It just showed up, and I was like, oh, yeah, all right. And so I vaped at least 60 mils of it over the course of 2 or 3 days. And
There goes Matt.
it was just like vaping. There was nothing. There was nothing wacky going on. There was no THC in it.
Okay, are we ready to move on to the next question?
Sure.
Sure.
All right. So Kyle's been trying to get this question into chat for a little while. He's starting to see, and we actually talked about this a little bit before the show. I'm starting to see counties where I live in New York raise the smoking age to 21, which doesn't affect me, but I'm worried it's a step towards an attack on vapor products. Any thoughts?
Yeah, absolutely. We
Yeah.
have thoughts.
Yep.
Next question. No.
No, we've been seeing that in Massachusetts for quite a while. I think there's up to 100 municipalities here in Mass that have moved to 21, especially as you get closer to Boston. And most recently, Worcester, which is, I think, the second biggest city in Mass, in central Massachusetts, they recently changed over to 21. Stuff like that, it's going to be good for some shops. It's going to be bad for others. Philosophically, I vehemently disagree with changing
Yeah.
to 21, especially if they don't put in a grandfather clause. But it's tough in a state like New York or Massachusetts. It's tough because you have to gather resources to fight these things, and you have to be able to focus those resources where they're going to do the most good. And that it's not always the case that going after a bill like that or a local regulation is the best use of your resources, unfortunately. That's my thought. I'm against it, but you have to pick your battles, especially in battleground states like Massachusetts.
Well, I have a couple of fundamental disagreements with anything in the United States being restricted for people over the age of 18, including alcohol.
Agreed.
If you are 18 years old and you can vote for representatives in Congress and your president, and you can enter the military and fight and die for your country, why in the hell can't you make a decision on what you want to take into your body if it's a legal product? Mm-hmm. Why?
Agreed.
It's just ridiculous.
We need to have that line drawn. Like,
Right. A minor is a minor.
a minor is a minor, an adult is an adult.
Right.
That's where the line is. That's where we keep the line.
Correct.
The more gray that line gets, the longer children stay children, essentially.
Yeah. Well, and I've said this before. We've talked about this. I've said it somewhere before. I think it was on VCCLive back at the beginning. If you are, does the lives between the age of 18 and 21, are they more valuable for some reason than my life because I'm 39? I don't think so.
Right.
So what's the point? What are they trying to prove, and who are they trying to save, and why? I mean, I understand the save the children argument, even though I think it's a weak argument that politicians use when they don't have a leg to stand on. But when you're 18, you're 18. You can enter into contracts. You can destroy your life with credit cards if you want to. It's your prerogative. You can do whatever you want to do legally as an adult. But the government says you can't drink alcohol until you're 21 legally, or buy alcohol. You can't, in some jurisdictions now, choose if you want to smoke or vape. Screw that. It's ridiculous.
Not gonna lie though, half the fun was trying to score booze when I was underage. You know, like I remember we used to like drive to like Chinatown, and there was this little shady market, you know, and they'd never carded us. God, that was fun. The good old days.
So wait, Matt, what you're saying is that the law didn't prevent you from getting alcohol, even though...
It did not, my friends.
What? What do we have laws for then, man?
I looked young when I was, 18, 19, too.
You were young when you were 18.
I had hair, and I can't grow a beard now, but I had like maybe one or two whiskers. Anyway, I'm getting off subject, but...
Yeah, so anyway, that's my thought on the 18. And then also, too, the second point I had to that was anything you agree with being lumped in with tobacco products. And I know the FDA has deemed them tobacco products now, and we're going to see a trickle-down effect to the states and cities and counties. But I just would oppose anything that ties us in with tobacco products, because the more we comply with and or agree to their assertion that vaping is a tobacco product, the worse it gets for us. So even if you think, oh, well, 21 probably is reasonable, 21 probably is reasonable for smoking. Vaping is not smoking. So I just wouldn't give them an inch anywhere. The same thing goes with taxes. If people say, oh, well, they're only going to do like a 1 cent tax per milliliter, it's not that bad. Nah, bullshit. You can't give the government an inch. They will take a mile.
You're right.
Keep going.
And we did successfully fight the 21 regulation at the state level in Massachusetts.
Good.
The problem is with municipalities, they tend to move under the radar, and they move very quickly.
Right, they do. And that's again one of the reasons why we started Vista a couple years ago when we did, which is we're winding that down. But the premise is states can move very quickly within a matter of days or months or weeks to pass laws and legislation. And that, if you think that's fast, drop that down to the county or city level. Mm-hmm. They can schedule something for a board meeting 1 week within so many days of notification to the public. They have the meeting, like 5 people there attending the meeting. Boom! Next thing you know, there's a vaping ban. So that's why you have to constantly be vigilant on what you're looking at. And like we say all the time, get involved. You have to be involved. You have to know your elected officials, and you have to be educating them. But first you have to educate yourself. So it's a constant thing, man. And it just, like when Matt was saying earlier about the Facebook thing, the social media stuff doesn't really get me down. But the constant involvement it's like, why do we have to go through so much bullshit? This is vaping. I mean, it's not heroin. You know what I mean? What the hell,
It's not?
people? I mean, I don't understand why it's so tough.
Oh, I'm a big heroin advocate too, though. I'm in a lot of those groups. Kidding.
Also, everybody, Matt's not serious about that statement, so don't turn that into like a little sound bite and play it on your podcast.
Next thing you know, Matt's working for Big Heroin.
Yeah, big heroin.
I would be a little bit skinnier, I think.
Yeah.
Big heroin.
Good Lord.
All right. Well, we're a little bit early on time, but let's talk about our quote real quick. Going back to the unity thing, which again may or may not be achievable in the vaping community, but I think hopefully we can get closer to a common. We all have the common goal, but if we can get to a common ground, that'll be a good thing. So I found this quote by Winston Churchill. He says, "When there is no enemy within, the enemies outside cannot hurt you." So I think it's a good thing to close with and to bring us in focus and understand that our enemy is not vapors and other vapor organizations. Our enemy is the tyrannical government and the bodies of the government that need to be reined in, like the FDA, for instance, or the state of California, for instance, or any place that is trying to impose its will on the citizens and hold our hands and tell us what's good for us to do in our life as adults in the United States of America. So that's our enemy, ladies and gentlemen. Not other vapors, not other organizations. We have one goal and one goal only, and that is to make sure that vaping stays around for the foreseeable future, forever, until anyone who is using combustible tobacco is no longer using combustible tobacco. That's our goal. So
Yep.
Anyway, I thought that was a good quote.
Absolutely, I agree.
All right, well, we will be back next Friday, I think,
Yeah.
right? This is Labor Day weekend. Hopefully you guys have some fun plans for Labor Day weekend. It's
Yep.
pretty wet in Florida right now. We just had this system blow through, so we've been getting a ton of rain. But I understand the weekend should be nice, so maybe we'll be doing some grilling on Monday, and hopefully you guys have a great weekend with your friends and family. Remember,
try,
you don't
for
have to do
sure.
everything. You do have to do something.
Mm-hmm.
Get involved.